Folks, in this very special episode of Big Boy Pants Golf, we've got the founder of 54 Live, Digsies.
What's up, guys?
This is going to be the first ever State of the Golf Union address going on right now. We're going to cover LIV, and then we're going to slowly move into on the PGA Tour. At this point, discuss a video I put out recently.
Yes, I know.
Involving your buddy, Alan Shipnuck. You had him on your first season of 54 Live. You watched the video. What are your thoughts now?
Yeah. Now, everybody's been bashing Shipnuck. You've been bashing Shipnuck. And it made me uncomfortable because he came on 54 Live last year when I was a small podcast. I had, a couple hundred fans, couple hundred listeners, nothing big. And he took time out of his day to come on to discuss the Phil book. But, I'm torn because I watched the video that you put out, and clearly he contradicted himself, and clearly he, said some things that weren't true. And, this LIV book's coming out that I was excited for. And now we see Brooks saying that what he's putting in the book isn't true. JT is telling him to shut up. Few guys on LIV is telling him, I think Westwood came out and said, yeah, us LIV guys feel the same way too. So it seems like a lot of the golfers, obviously Greg Norman hates him. We know that famous picture with Greg lurking over him when he was kicked out of the conference and couldn't ask Phil questions at the first LIV event in London, the inaugural LIV event. So obviously when there's smoke, there's fire. So the players don't like him. Obviously he's doing something wrong.
I think the proof is in the pudding. Look, you can say all you want and say that and you can say I'm doing the real job of a journalist. And yes, the job of a journalist is to uncover the truth and to talk about and to bring things to light that aren't exactly comfortable for people to talk about. But if you're in a situation where everyone that you're supposed to be talking to doesn't want to talk to you because you've, in their eyes, been misrepresenting them, then you've already shot yourself in the foot and no longer have journalistic capital. Understand, when Michael Jordan was in his prime and you watch the Last Dance, who is in the room every single time that he's doing anything?
Ahmad Rashad. Yeah,
exactly. Ahmad Rashad is in the room every single freaking scene of the Last Dance because he proved to be a true journalist that was willing to listen to Michael Jordan and understand what's on the record, what's off the record, but more importantly, represent him and understand what the image was and the brand that Michael Jordan was to the world and to basketball. And Shipnuck, in a lot of ways, doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand, from what I'm seeing as an outsider looking in, he doesn't understand who the players are that he's trying to represent and talk to. He doesn't understand what is off the record, what is on the record. He just understands TikTok juicy. Let's get 5 minutes of bullshit out there and make it into a 3,500 page book. And that's the vibe that I'm getting.
Yeah. And I feel like there was a few things Phil said off the record that he used for sure.
Digsies, you're the guy who discovered Jake Span Golf.
I did.
Working in a sweatshop somewhere, and you brought him onto your show.
I did. And honestly, it's so crazy. He just texted me out of the blue on Twitter, DM, I'd love to come on the show. And I said, sure, I'll give it a shot. I was doing it solo forever. I had one guy last year. It was like his Twitter's name is like Patrick Reed's #1 fan. And all he did was just stroke Patrick Reed the whole time, which was all right, but I really wanted someone that I could really dive in deep with. So I'm like, I'll give it a shot. First episode of the year. And then look what I found, the golden voice of a generation.
Dude, I listened to him on your 54 Live after he tweeted out at me to get on Big Boy Pants Golf. And I was like, this dude has a golden voice.
He does. He really does. He's like a Joe Buck / Jim Nance, Bob Costas type,
Wow. Those are some high accolades, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, what are you doing talking to us, bro? Go make some money.
Go make some money. If I knew how to do audiobooks, I totally would, but I can't read.
Audiobooks, yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
They didn't teach you how to read in Oklahoma?
No, they didn't actually.
No.
It was forbidden actually.
Yeah. All right.
That's actually fact. But let's move on to that. We've got to do a little bit of thing on LIV because there are 4 guys that are getting relegated. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? And you know the answer is it's a good thing. Digsies, what do you think?
An amazing thing. I think it's the greatest. I wish they would have relegated 8 guys, not just, well, I guess technically it was what, but there's 2 captains, Westwood and Keimer aren't going to get relegated. So Sewan Kim, Jed Morgan, Chase Koepka, and I'm missing one.
James Pyatt.
James Pyatt, yeah, which Jake loves Pyatt. He thinks Pyatt's going to turn it around. But yeah, I love it. I wish they would relegate more because it gives these guys a reason to play for something. And as we saw today, that was just tweeted about the tournament in end of December, people are going to be able to play their way on to Live. So I think every year that you could churn and burn, new guys in, old guys out, keep it fresh, keep it exciting. I love it.
Very much in the same park right there. Yes, we have an opportunity to build parasocial interactions and bonds with a lot of these players. Players like Pyatt have been very active in social media presentations and previews, and tried to make their brand known outside of the actual play, which his play has been pretty bad overall. I will say that it's good for Liv, though, to be able to replace them and get them out. I do hope for those guys that they're going to have a chance to be possibly bench players next year. But it's important for Liv to continue increasing the quality of play. Before this season started, we had 6 guys that got pushed into the league that were all top 100 golfers in the world, I would say. Dean Burmester, Mito Pereira, Sebastian Munoz, Thomas Peters, Danny Lee. We had these guys come into the league and really showcase how imperative it was to have better overall parity in the league. And while only one of the wins in Live Golf came from the 6 new signings, it showcased that the depth needed to be improved. And we're going to see that happen again this year, I think.
Yeah, I think Peters was the worst of the bunch, and he came in 33rd. Everybody else did pretty well out of those 6.
That's actually great info, Digsies. I 100% agree with Digsies that they actually need to cut more. How did Sewan Kim, and you already saw it was this slow-moving Denzel Washington and that dude from the Star Trek movie where you got the train and they can't stop it. But he's going for this collision course towards like off the cliff of golf horribleness and just DFL, and they can't stop it. It runs out the whole season.
Insane. I looked this up, right? Sewan Kim, 45th or worse 11 times, 4 times was in last place. Chase Koepka, 45th or worse 7 times. Pyatt, he had 2 20s. The rest were all 30s, 6 40-place finishes. Jed Morgan, 40th or worse 8 times, 38th 2 other times. His best was a 17th. Like, honestly, there's only 48 guys on the course. Like, you should be able to luck into a top 10 here or there out of 13 events. Like, it's insane how bad these guys played.
Well, not only that, but if you look at Sewan Kim, for instance, he actually finished DFL more times because whenever there's a player that actually withdraws from the event or they have to sub somebody out, that player automatically becomes 48th or 47th. So There were events where Sewan Kim got like 45th, but he finished dead last.
All right, look at that. So it's probably close to like 7 or 8.
Yeah. So real talk, when you look over this was, you're correct in referencing a Denzel Washington film. This was The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. This was literally Sewan Kim hijacking the train and guiding Liv off the rails for an entire year because congratulations, you have to deal with me. I'm getting paid $4 million. Congrats.
If I could, in another Denzel Washington movie reference, write a Pelican brief for anyone at Liv, I would want to say, hey, maybe you have a relegation midseason too, because you can't have a dude do this over 14 tournaments.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, and maybe it's not a relegation midseason, but I would say a last place clause be put into effect to where if a player is deemed incompetent to the field or uncompetitive to the field. And I don't even like saying mean things about somebody because obviously every one of us can have bad weeks, but to prove consistently that you are just not there. Your game is not there. And it may have just been the fact that he had to transition from no crowd performances to high crowd performances. Sewan Kim's best overall finish in Live Golf was Jeddah last season. If you remember, Jeddah is like the one event where there's just nobody there.
Yeah.
Because it's Jeddah. It's not really a golfing area. It's in the middle of the Red Sea. They're not going to have fans out there. And that was his best finish as a player last season. So they need to have a clause put into effect, the Sewan Kim rule, if you will.
What they need to do is what every other team sport does. You need to have a bench. You need to have 5 guys on each team. So if someone like Sewan Kim is out there stinking up the joint, you got someone to put in reserve. And also for these injuries, like how many guys do we see play for 2 or 3 different teams this year because someone got injured, like Keimer, and like you have these guys jumping from team to team. You don't want to see that. You don't see somebody jumping from the Giants to the Eagles midseason unless there's a trade or release or something like that. So I think each team should have 5 guys and have your 4 main guys, and every guy should have a sub. Every team should have a sub.
And the Majestics, I think, were a prime example of how to do this well. The
Majestics, with Ogletree, right?
Yeah, well, not with Ogletree. They had Laurie Cantor come back in and replace Horsfield for like 7 events because Horsfield was getting a hip surgery or something like that, like a hip flexor or something like that. And it was a great situation because they kept on having Sam Horsfield at the press conferences to where you knew, hey, this is our teammate, but this is Laurie Cantor, our backup. And so Laurie Cantor was there. He was securing points. And it was so cool to see what the 5-man situation could be where you have a bench. And I feel like, once again, even though the Majestics aren't getting it done on the field, they're doing things off the field in a way that promotes great leadership and what live golf should look like.
They're definitely winning the social media game, but their on-course play, they're one of 2 teams to not come into a top 3 this year, them and the High Flyers.
Yeah.
A lot of Live Jeddah, the drama was Bernd Wiesberger. He's right on the bubble. Is he going to make it? And I'm thinking in my head, so what? Because from 25 down, it doesn't mean you automatically stay on next year. Now that you're just basically, they have the option to keep you.
Mm-hmm.
Who from the 25 to the 44 spot, actually not to the 40 spot because the last 4 or so are obviously relegated, who is kept and who gets the boot anyway?
So the most obvious person I would say is Matty Wolff as far as the mercurial situation of what it comes down to. I think most of the players stick on. Like most of the players from the 25 to 44 are going to be there. I think they're probably going to be on the same teams. I think Matty Wolff is the biggest question mark one. For me, it really comes down to will the Range Goats boot Thomas Pieters over to the Cliques to give the Cliques kind of a reinvigoration? And will they take on the Matty Wolff situation? Because we already know that Smash GC is not going to have him back. We already know he pissed off or didn't mesh well with Mickelson last year. We know DJ's not going to put up with his crap. So where else does he go? I think Matty Wolff has one option, and that's the Range Goats, at least if they're not going to introduce new franchises next season. So my thought is Thomas Pieters goes to the Cliques to reinvigorate them. We see Matty Wolff go over to the Range Goats, and that's really the only option for him. Outside of that, Matty Wolff gets booted.
Yeah, and he was such a young star, a few years ago. I think a lot will stay. The guys that I don't think will stay, like that I don't want to see stay, that I want some fresh blood, Matt Jones, Laurie Cantor, G-Mac. I think Pat Perez will stay because he's like a vibe, and he vibes well with the Aces, and like they keep him around like he's a partier, and he's not playing that horrible. A lot of these teams, like if you look at the Aces, the Crushers, Torquay, Range Goats, Stinger, and High Flyers, they only have 1 spot to fill. So it'll be interesting to see where they go. The Cliques, they have, Keimer's staying and Bland staying. They have 2 spots to fill. The Majestics, technically, if the guys weren't captains, they would have every single spot to fill, which is insane. Sewan Kim, Ironheads will fill that spot. So honestly, I don't think a lot. I think the young guns will stay, like Answer, Puig. I think they'll stay, but some of the aging vets, like, get rid of them. Like, I want to see new blood. And it all depends on who is going to come over. And I'm sure we'll get to that later, especially now with these guys that signed on to the TGL. I don't think there's a lot of options out there.
In my opinion, I don't think you keep Pat Perez. I think you would keep Pat Perez if he was 27, but you don't keep the 46-year-old because you're trying to skew down to the youthful market, especially when you see, and we'll get into this later, the guys who are going to be allowed to be playing in that Get On to Live Golf Tour event. You want the amateurs. You want these young guys. You want the U.S. amateur champ to come and try to qualify. Pat Perez, I mean, you're trying to make a competitive team. I don't know if he had a great season. If you're thinking for the future, 2, 3, 4 years down the line, I don't know. I mean, he is a vibe, but I mean, now is the time to really set the structure and what the vision of for Liv is, and you're skewing youthful.
Yeah.
You want to get those guys before they go over to the PGA Tour so they can build their career on Liv.
Like they did with Chaka Kara and Puig and those guys.
Well, and that's why the situation with Pyatt, Pettit, and Jed Morgan is such a disaster, because those guys were the young talents. Those were the incoming young talents. The good news is they're getting Ogletree back in there, which Ogletree's still on the younger side of talent basis.
You have a thing for Ogletree. You really do.
I mean, I do.
Do you and him have a little something going on?
No, it's just he's an amazing turnaround story. All right,
Okay.
He really is. He's somebody who was, the top-rated amateur U.S. amateur champion 2019, fell off the map completely as far as professional circuit, everything, because there wasn't the things in place now that get the young guys out there, and all of a sudden goes to Live, takes the risk, comes in DFL, Sewan Kim territory, gets booted, gets banned from all the other tours, decides to go to the Asian tour and make it work, and goes out there and dominates, bro. That's the American story in a nutshell. That bro is America.
Yeah, he showed people what they can do to get on Live,
Yes.
Instead of trying to get into events in the PGA Tour, go over to Asia, dominate, and play your way on.
Exactly.
My lasting memory, or my first impression of Andy Ogletree, you can correct me if I'm wrong, when he won the U.S. Amateur, he was wearing glasses.
Yeah, he wears glasses predominantly, but he's starting to wear sunglasses now when he plays. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like bad eyes. You need good eyes for golf.
Yeah, that's why I'm a teen handicap, not like you guys.
Well, I've seen your swing, and it's not your eyes.
It's getting better. Don't worry. Hey, listen. My swing is all out of sorts. I was working with the coach. He kind of messed me up, but John Mono, he's getting me back on track. By next year, I'll be a single-digit handicap. Mark my words.
Nice.
That's a lot of pressure on John Mono.
He'll get it done. Already, he gave me 2 points, and already I'm hitting the ball better.
Our next topic, and this comes up from a 90s golf legend, Jason Zubac, long drive bomber. I don't know if he's suffering from low testosterone nowadays because he's kind of a little bit anti-live. So I have to chirp on there a little bit to him. I'm like, 90s Zubac would say this, just to remind him he's a different guy now. But current day Jason Zubac is complaining that these relegated players automatically get a spot on the Asian Tour, and that they're potentially taking a spot away from other guys who may be more qualified. And remember, this is going down as Lexi Thompson is taking a spot on the PGA Tour.
He doesn't clearly understand what Live Golf does. So the part of the Live Golf players' contracts, I believe, it's not officially stated, but they want those guys playing on the Asian Tour. Live Golf, if you remember, the PIF basically owns the Asian Tour in some type of way. They're tightly involved with the whole COVID situation that happened a few years ago. The Asian Tour needed a bailout in order to stay relevant and stay functioning and afloat, and the PIF provided that. And that's where a lot of that tight bond comes from. So yes, Asian Tour has a tight connection with Live Golf, and it's in the Asian Tour's best interest. Think of how many Asian Tour events, for me personally, that I've actually watched or at least been mindful of solely because of their cohesion and mesh with Live Golf. The international series events, I'm watching them, or at least checking out the leaderboards the entire day, trying to understand who's going to be there next year, who's not going to be there next year. And look, they understand the truth. And you mentioned it with Lexi Thompson as well. It's about getting eyeballs on the course.
Yeah.
And the truth is, if it takes 3 spots of guys that we know the names of for 100 guys that we don't know the name of to actually have a chance to have their name known, it's worth it.
Yeah, I agree with Jake. I disagree with Zubac. I don't even know who the hell Zubac is, a little before my time. But if you look at the International Series Order of Merit, 4 of the top 10 guys are Live players. So they're playing Asian Tour events. And just look over in Europe with soccer, football, as they call it. If, Southampton or, AFC Wimbledon gets relegated from the Premier League to the Championship Series, they don't have to earn their way onto the Championship Series. They just go down, and 4 guys from there go down again. So that's the way relegation works. Like, Live is the Premier League, and Asian Tour is the league that's underneath. So if you get kicked off the Premier League, you go down and play on that, just like on the PGA Tour. If you lose your card, you get to play in the Corn Ferry Tour, right? Like, it's
Pretty
the same
much.
exact, yeah, it's the same exact thing.
Well, 90s Zubac, and I pointed this out to him on Twitter, was the original golf but louder guy. So it's weird to me that he's kind of not loving the live thing, but also think these live players are supporting the Asian Tour more than the quote unquote DP World Tour players who play on the PGA Tour and they go over once a blue moon to play on the DP World Tour. So, I mean, now you're just hating on people for supporting a smaller tour.
Yeah.
Well, that's true because, Lee Westwood created a tournament this year at his own home course. It was one of the international series events, or it wasn't an international series event, I think, but it was still on the Asian Tour. They had 2 events actually in England. One of them was at Lee Westwood's course. And you had all the big names for Live going out there. Not all the big names, but you had, Ian Poulter, Westwood. You had the Majestics out there. You had a lot of the guys out there. Garcia was out there. It was a great event. And it would not have happened had the Asian Tour not had the connections and the bond that they have with Live.
Yeah, and I'll be 100% honest. Before Live got an agreement with the Asian Tour, I didn't care or watch or look at one thing for the Asian Tour. So it got my eyeballs to the Asian Tour.
Before Liv started working with the Asian Tour, I had no idea what an Asian was.
Yeah, okay.
Now, folks, we get into the dark part of the episode. I don't know what's going on with Golf Digest Suits. Is obviously like the marketing partner of the PGA Tour. Who's running it, or if it's some kind of weird Gen Z thing now. But you see these computer-generated AI images of Max Homa and Rory McIlroy as they would be in the 90s. And so, as someone who lived through the 90s, they would have gotten beaten up every day. So what is going on where you're thinking, we love these guys so much, now we're doing these kind of things with them?
I hate those. If I was a player, I would say do not put one of those images, because I haven't seen one where I was like, wow, that looks good. Like the way Rory's standing there, like with like his hand, they just look.
We already hate the boy band vibe conversations that happen. I mean, we're part of that conversation because we see those guys projecting those kind of images. We see the PGA Tour projecting that onto them. And then for Golf Digest to continue those vibes and continue promoting and projecting that boy band image onto them, it just further disingenuous. And knowing Rory McIlroy and how fond he is of subpoenas and lawsuits, I'm surprised he hasn't gone in on Golf Digest yet.
He can't do that. He's not gonna. Rory's getting told what to do behind the scenes from Monahan and the goons at the PGA Tour. He wouldn't do that. They're too close, PGA and Golf Digest, for him to mess with them.
Well, it's weird to me about Golf Digest in general now, especially I watched a little while ago, there was an article about how women's, attire was keeping them out. Like women's attire was keeping women out of golf. And then the next day, there's an article about, it's a whole ad about new women's golf attire. So, they're obviously doing that whole like, here's the problem we're pointing out, and we have the solution. So now, today, I see this article about these golf professionals are suffering because of the golf boom, because now they have to actually like work more or something. So now Golf Digest, for some reason, is bringing like the social issues and trying to make them golf issues.
They're not suffering. They're not, and I'll tell you why. My buddy Rich, he owns South Shore Golf on Long Island in Bohemia. If you're from Long Island and you need clubs, go there, get fitted by him. I've been going to this store for the past 10 years. They had 2 employees, Rich and this other guy, Brian. Since the boom, he's now had to hire 8 guys, and he's killing it. So honestly, that's false. These golf professionals, they're making more money now from the golf boom. Okay, maybe they have to work a couple extra hours, but you know what? If you're going to put extra money in my pocket, I'll work the few extra hours. It's that they're not struggling. I don't feel bad for them.
But not only that, I mean, remember the old saying? The old saying is, if you can figure out what you love to do and figure out how to make a living doing it, you're never going to work a day in your life.
Exactly.
Folks, there is not one golfer out there who's an active person who's playing that is struggling with their mental health on a legitimate, need basis. You're not hearing about Adderall problems on the PGA Tour. You're not hearing about, all you're hearing about is stress from not performing well on the course. But at the end of the day, guys, they're outside, they're living the dream, they're doing what we wish we could do every day of the week. They get to hit balls for a living, they get to walk for a living. I mean, seriously,
I'm sure
how
there's
many of these golfers live to be like 95?
I'm sure
Right.
there's a few that are struggling with mental health, and it's a topic that is important these days. And you put 300 guys in a room, the odds are you're gonna have a few, but they do have a great job, and a lot of them deal with it. The stresses, it does bother them, but in a perfect world, how many people would sign up to have their job? I would. I need to fix my swing first, though, right, Pants?
It's gonna take some effort, dude. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. It's gonna take a lot of work. Zero club face control. But let's go to the next topic, where obviously this wouldn't be a Big Boy Pants Golf episode if we didn't go after Max Homa a little bit. Max Homa, the hero of the Ryder Cup, until you look into the fact, okay, one of his wins was against Matthew Fitzpatrick, and Matt Fitzpatrick is now 1-7-0 in the Ryder Cup. He's making Spieth look like the guy you would want to pick.
Hey man, I got to give it to Max. Max was the bright star in Rome. He stepped up to the plate.
That's the wrong answer. Jake Spangler, point out in his doubles team he was beating like Sepp Straka and Shane Lowry or something. Hey, pit him against the weak links on every team, and sure, you come up smelling like roses. He took on no John Rahm.
Yeah, look, people always bash on Rory's Ryder Cup record long term. Rory does have a positive record, though, but Rory's also playing the 1 and 2 and 3 from the USA in every single event. So you have to take these things with a grain of salt. He's not going out there and playing Kevin Kisner 4 times during the Ryder Cup. He's not going out there playing out of form, captain's pick number 12 every single day. Max Homa had a very good Ryder Cup, but he wasn't playing the guys. And when he was playing the guys, he wasn't getting the points. He was getting halves. And again, still a great performance. I think he exceeded our expectations by a long shot. And the biggest thing that we need to talk about, though, is that you're hitting on and fighting on Max Homa. It really needs to come back to Matty Fitzpatrick, because Matty Fitzpatrick, great golfer. I think him and his brother Alex have an amazing opportunity long term as far as their career. He's already a major champion, but he struggles so much with match play. And I really do wonder if it's a little man syndrome, or if it's one of those kind of things where he just doesn't feel like he has that projection that other players have. We know that he does care, even though he acts like he doesn't care. We know he does care because he started doing that intense speed training where they had him basically get butt naked and do isometric exercises and stretches for like endless days in order to try to figure out how to make his 145-pound body hit 185 in ball speed.
I'll tell you what Matthew Fitzpatrick's problem was before this year is he over and over again told the captains, he told Patrick Harrington, he told Darren Clark, I do not want to play with this guy because he plays this type of ball. I need to play my own ball, yada, yada, yada. And everybody just disregarded him and just put him with whoever and didn't take his worries and concerns into effect. And I feel like that's a reason why he didn't play well in 2016, 2018, what have you.
So you're bringing something up right there. Matty Fitzpatrick is somebody who we know from the Netflix documentary.
He's very analytical.
Very analytical. Takes a record of every single shot that he ever has in his journals.
Since he's like 13.
Yeah, every single shot. He has a record of it somehow. And
that can't be real, by the way. You would never get off the range. You're gonna hit 50 balls and then down.
No. And when he's playing, not on course.
Oh, I think it's every shot, period. But we'll get back to that later. Go ahead.
Really?
But you know what I'm saying, though. You know what I'm talking about, though, Pants. It's a very, very, very litigious procedure for him. So if there's any player out there who is in his own head, up his own ass, it is Fitzpatrick.
Jake Spangler just completely misused the word litigious, but that's okay. More, I would say,
I did.
Anal retentive, OCD, but that's fine because I don't want people to go after Jake Spangler in the comment section because there's people out there that are waiting for you to say something like litigious and then go off on you. We cleared it up right now. We cleared it up. You're free and clear now, sir.
Thank you. But you get what I'm saying, though, is that he's somebody who is, you're right. So OCD, anal retentive, somebody who just has to think and overthink about everything. We always joke about Dustin Johnson being an idiot. And that's always the joke about Dustin Johnson out there in the golf world is that, oh, he's got nothing going on between his ears. And I'm jealous of that. And I'm sure Matt Fitzpatrick is as well. If Matt Fitzpatrick could turn his brain off, I think he'd be that guy. But he's not, because he can't.
Dustin's just see ball, hit ball, move on. All right?
Is the Tomorrow Golf League really just another cover to get these guys appearance fee money? Because they tried that with the player impact program, right? And you can get the players some amount of money that way through this whole thing, because the PGA Tour can't pay appearance fees and thereby lock up these guys. So now you got the TGL where you can slip a lot of guys a lot of cash now because it's kind of PGA Tour adjacent.
Yeah.
What do you think about that whole theory of mine?
I think it was brought up because of Liv, and they've thought of something. What can we do that makes these guys a couple extra bucks so they don't go to Liv? So I think that's what they're doing, and I'm going to tune in. I'm going to watch it. It's in prime time, especially the first few events to see what it's about. But I'm not like, oh, I can't wait. Like I was like the Ryder Cup or like a major. Jake?
So PGA Tour adjacent, is that kind of like your other definition that you've used with the word adjacent, Asian adjacent, exuding a level of PGA Tour but not 100%?
Well, once you throw in something like use the word like adjacent, or let's say like hottest, like YouTube's hottest golf channel, you can't really prove those things wrong. It's you got a lot of wiggle room there. So yeah, it is PGA Tour adjacent. Yes, there are a lot of Asian adjacent people out there. Let's all work together, dude.
Yeah. Yes. Ultimately, I'm gonna tune into it to watch and figure out what the vibe is off of it, because you can't comment on something and talk about something and hate on something if you're not gonna be educated about it. So you have to be able to know what's going on.
Did you see the promo video yet?
I have not.
There's a little promo one. You can watch it later. It's super cringy already. Do you think that this TGL is a boom or a bust in the future?
I think it has higher volatility than Live Golf did or does. I think it really does, because they're putting so much of because it's not actual golf, so much of the product comes down to their production team and the editing. Versus with Live Golf, the production team and the editing are a bonus and a boon to everything.
Didn't we just see this with Full Swing and Netflix? Was that really that successful?
People were saying it was successful, but the editing was horrible.
The season 2's coming out, right? Keegan Bradley said that he had Netflix in his house when he got the call from Zach Johnson that he wasn't going to be on the Ryder Cup. The best part about the Tomorrow Golf League, I think the best thing they did was they're having their episodes or shows filmed at a campus in Palm Beach. I think it's like Palm Beach State College, or it's on campus. So you're going to get a lot of rowdy young kids. They could go start drinking at 6, go in like a college football event. So honestly, if the crowd isn't jacked, I'd be surprised, and that might be exciting to get on, TV, to have the crowd excited and cheering these guys on, like booing some of these guys. That's the only thing I see they got going for them. Plus it's prime time, ESPN. I think they could do well, but I'm 50-50 on it. I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to do great like I felt Liv was going to do great when they first came out.
A lot of it comes down to just how that first event goes. I mean, Liv's first event wasn't very rowdy. The broadcast team only had Arlo White and Jerry Foltz. It didn't have Faraday, but you could tell something was going on there. You could tell there was a vision and there was a clear goal and there was a clear mission behind it. What is the mission of the TGL? Is it to give Tiger an opportunity to still compete because he can't walk? Is that what it is? Is that the only mission of the TGL? I don't know what the TGL is about, what it stands for, what it's designed to do, what it makes different. And hopefully that'll come out, but there has to be a clear mission and motivation for this to make sense. And I don't know what the hell it is right now.
It's simple. It's to get these guys extra money in their pockets. That's the mission.
Oh, that's the mission. Well, then just say it.
Yeah. They're never going to say that, but obviously that's the mission.
It's definitely going to bust, folks. And here's why. We have the thing called the match, correct? Those are actually these guys you want to see playing on a cool golf course.
Yeah.
No one cares that much, dude. Right?
The first one was great. The second one was, and then by like the third, I don't even watch them anymore.
The most recent one was terrible because it was It was Rory and Tiger playing at night with Spieth and Thomas. Spieth has zero personality other than just self-deprecation. That's his personality, is self-deprecation. Rory won't talk to anyone, and so you have to rely on Tiger, who's historically very stoic, and Justin Thomas. And it was halfway working, but the majority of the time, the conversation was between Charles Barkley with a microphone in Justin Thomas's ear, bad-mouthing each other.
I think what they did the last time when they did Mahomes and Kelsey versus Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, that's what people want to see. They want to see people like them, you know, like 5, 6, 7 handicappers, hackers go out there, and they don't want to watch these pros. You can watch these pros every weekend, you know?
Well, you also got the obvious competition, Bryson DeChambeau's YouTube channel. These guys can do matches like this on the cheap, and you could probably start selling tickets to watch these guys do these matches. You know, 9 holes here, 9 holes on the whatever. So that you also have this competition aspect that's about to blow up. I think that's going to even make the TGL even less relevant.
Yeah, and you also have all these podcasts that do it too. Bob Does Sports, Country Club Adjacent, No Laying Up, Foreplay. All these guys do matches, you know, like, and hopefully we'll get our match in next year in Vegas. But yeah, honestly, you could go on YouTube and watch a match if you want to watch a match.
Jake Span Golf, you obviously understand way beyond your years. You are the natural. You have a golden voice. People are recognizing that, including Hank Haney. How do you feel about starring in the Big Boy Pants Golf YouTube's Hottest Golf Channel video, which you actually talk probably 70 to 77% of the time? So it's all about you, dude. It's you. And Hank Haney retweeting this. You are now a celebrity, sir.
Thank you. That's a weird thing to feel about. And I do feel bad sometimes where I swear I get more talking time than I deserve or I'm allowed to. Because I think I know I make about like 85% gaffes on camera, at least every single episode. So thank you for the kindness and kind words.
It makes us and Pants jobs easier.
I literally zone out and focus on Diggsy's lack of club face control and think about how I could maybe correct that because it's so disturbing to me.
Pants wonders why we don't have video for 54 Live. It's because I'm just laying in bed watching TV as Jake rambles on.
Okay, you two have just bonded awkwardly again. I don't approve of this.
Not with him. He's in Oklahoma. I'm in New York.
Jake Span Golf, you've worked with both of us. Sure, you worked with Diggsy's first. But when you think of the word daddy, who comes to mind? Diggsy's or Big Boy Pants Golf? Diggsy's, it's been fantastic having you on, dude. You can say thank you.
Thank
it's been
you.
great being on.
Yes.
Folks, subscribe, share, and like. This is just the beginning. There are going to be many State of the Golf Union addresses.
At least quarterly. We need to do at least quarterly.
How good was this guy's president?
Abe Lincoln? He was great.
He's one of the best.
He was, yeah. We need an Abe
Blew
Lincoln.
my mind away.
Well, you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm making a Mount Rushmore. It's the three of us, and I'm putting Abraham Lincoln up there too.
All right.
Fuck yeah.
Peace.
Later, guys.